The semiconductor market is still going strong as we embark on the second half of fiscal 2020. Joining us now to share some insight is Micron Technology's Executive Vice President of Global Operations, Manish Bhatia. Manish, good to see you again. Welcome to the show. I know Micron is a couple of weeks removed from its earnings report, solid earnings report, beating on both their revenue and profits. You know, there's some talk though on the street now that we've seen a glut of these chips, DRAM chips, NAND chips on the market, that this is not sustainable. What are you experiencing? Do you feel like there are perhaps, is there an oversupply of the chips on the market at the moment?
So, what we've seen is that demand overall in certain areas in the first half of the year was propelled by the way the world was dealing with the COVID pandemic. Certainly, cloud and data center have been very strong as all of us have been learning to work from home, learn from home, shop from home. All those transformational areas have really propelled the demand in the first half of the year. And we see the demand in that data center being healthy through the second half of the year. The other big market, the consumer and smartphone market, has had a tougher time in the first half of the year. Obviously, smartphones having factory shutdowns early on in COVID when COVID was hitting in China, and then demand challenges for smartphones as the world was going through various rolling lockdowns. So we do see a recovery for smartphones in the second half, and that will hopefully bode well for us to carry more momentum into calendar year 21.
Manish, I'm not going to ask you here to play stock analyst. I know that's not what you do, but for the past 2 weeks, all we've seen is the NASDAQ seemingly touch records every single day. From your vantage point as a tech company, as a semiconductor company that produces these chips to go into a lot of businesses 6 to 12 months forward, do you think the enthusiasm for tech stocks is justified?
Well, what we see, Brian, is that COVID has accelerated the digital transformation for so many companies, and they're rethinking how they do things, whether it's in the healthcare sector, whether it's in the learning sector. Online classes are now accelerated maybe years. Same thing with telemedicine. So a lot of areas of industry are going to be certainly requiring semiconductor technology, and certainly memory and storage are core foundation of that, whether it's in the cloud and networking and in the devices that we're using today, smartphones, tablets, PCs. We think that acceleration, those long-term trends of artificial intelligence and 5G for wireless capability, industrial Internet of Things, and eventually autonomous driving, all those trends are still very much alive, and we think many of them accelerated. So I can understand where some of the enthusiasm is coming from when you look out beyond this next period. I think we see the next quarter or two still having some market uncertainty, as explained to Alexis a minute ago. Still some uncertainty on the demand side, but we think as we go through the year and certainly get into calendar year 21, we're just going to see a continued march towards growth, and the long-term trends continue to be very, very strong for our business and for others in the tech sector as well.
Hi, Jared Blickery here. I just wanted to ask you about, we haven't heard much about the trade war with China. Seems to be on ease here, especially as we head into the election. But if it flares up again, and in the meantime, we've had this reorientation of supply chains for that and other reasons, including the situation with Huawei. How does that affect your company, if at all, and then in the broader sense, your industry?
Sure. So certainly the initial trade sanctions on certain aspects of semiconductor products 2 years ago forced us to reconsider our supply chain, both inside China and outside China, and how we delivered products to our customers. And then COVID and the reality of the COVID, the lockdowns jumping from one country to another as it started in China and then moved to various countries across Asia, we had to develop much more resilient supply chain. And so we have actually invested to create redundancy across our supply chain so we can build products in multiple different areas. And that positions us well for being able to deal with the trade situation, however it may unfold, or other geopolitical risks that there are, and even something like this pandemic. So I think other companies in the industry are kind of looking at their supply chains. It's been a hot topic across the tech sector of making sure that you have that resiliency in your supply chain, as well as transparency levels back into your supply chain, not just your suppliers and where your direct parts coming from that you need to build your products, but where are your suppliers located? And so we've been seeing that multi-tiered transparency become more important. And with regard to Huawei and they are an important customer for us. They are not as large as they once were. They're not a 10% customer right now, and so we have a pretty diversified footprint across all the different end markets, whether it's cloud, data center, mobile, automotive, others. So we feel like we're in a good position to weather kind of the uncertainties, whatever may come, whether it's COVID related or tariff related or market demand related.
One quick follow-up to that. So, I mean, there could be a double whammy here when you consider that we have trade with China on the one hand, but also the possibility of a second wave of coronavirus hitting not only here in the U.S. but in China, which could affect supply chains. Are you confident that even with a second wave of the virus, your supply chains would be largely uninterrupted?
Well, Alexis, we've taken really strong and decisive steps early on in the COVID pandemic, going back to the earliest days of COVID, back in, around the Chinese New Year time in mid-January, when the virus was first emerging out of Wuhan. We really worked closely, starting with all of our factories, to make sure that we had the really, really strong and effective protocols in place to protect our employees. We then worked with our suppliers to make sure we qualified sources from around multiple different countries, and that we increase the levels of inventory of raw materials that we have on hand so that we can continue operating should we have any disruptions in supply. And we're continuing to maintain those levels. We're not letting our guard down now, whether it's the end of the first wave or whether you want to call it the second wave coming. We're definitely continuing to operate as if we're still in the middle of this situation and not going back to business as usual. So we feel very good about how we've been able to deliver for our customers. We feel very good about how we've been able to maintain all of our production sites. All of our production sites are at full production, and essentially everywhere other than a brief period in Malaysia, we've been able to maintain full production. So we are feeling pretty good about our ability to supply. And really, as I said, the market demand uncertainty is there in certain markets. How quick will consumer recover? How quick will smartphone recover? We think cloud will be strong in the second half and healthy. And then as we get to calendar year 21, we think we're going to be well positioned.
Manish, I have 30 seconds left, but I do want to get a clarification on something. So the Huawei restrictions kick in, I believe, August 13, 2020. Will that have an impact on Micron?
So as I mentioned, Huawei has become a smaller customer for us, and we are not directly, at least from our understanding, directly impacted. But obviously, if Huawei is unable to procure other components for their mobile products, then our primary sales for Huawei are into their mobile products, their smartphones, and if they're unable to procure other components, then our business could be impacted. But we're pretty well diversified across the smartphone, all the different smartphone providers. So we're tracking it closely, but we think we're well positioned.
All right, Manish Bhatia of Micron Technology. Always good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Brian.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.